Well, hello, this is Larry with the Blue Collar Nation podcast, and I'm here with my influential business partner, the tech whisperer, Mr. Eric Sprague. Eric, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How, in what way am I influential?
Well, thank you. It's very nice that you asked me that because you led me right into that. Thank you.
I teed it up for you.
You teed it up for me. So to lead into, I'll couple it with our sponsor. So our sponsor is Morning Tech Meeting, and Eric is a tech whisperer, and he sends out videos to train technicians every single day in soft skills. So we got a testimonial back the other day that Eric was very influential with the day of their company. How the day flows is based on the lesson that the tech whisperer presents.
Wow.
So that was very nice. I was impressed.
Nice
and
to
they
hear.
were impressed with you and your eloquence. And you seem to connect very well with the technicians. So bada bing.
That's the goal.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we have a killer show today. Podcast is a show, right? Well, we got to everybody can listen.
Of course it's a show.
We've got Dr. Nick in the house.
Yes.
Nicole Rankine. She's a
He screwed it up again.
Rankine. I think I do it subconsciously. It's terrible.
Oh, dude, Josh Smith.
Listen, she's not Josh Smith. There's a big difference here. We have Nicole Rankine here. She's a doctor of public health. Everybody calls her Dr. Nick. She's an acclaimed author. She's got a journal she's going to tell us about. She's got a killer website, which I was very impressed. I looked at there, and it didn't say how to pronounce your name on your website, but it's all good.
Oh, so you're trying to
Good to know. I'll update that now.
So wait a minute, Larry. You trying to blame Nicole?
No, not at all. It's a minor deflection. It's from my locker room days. I can't shake it. I've tried the personal development. It's been working.
Oh, I know you deflect.
How are you today, Dr. Nick?
I am wonderful. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, we're excited to dig into the culture of millennials.
Yes. Oh, that's a big topic to tackle.
Well, you're the expert, so that's why we have you on.
We'll see what we can do in the time that we have.
All right.
We could have used your direction a couple of years ago when we were running our service business. And
Yeah.
we struggled.
figured.
So we think you're going to have a ton of great information for the other service companies that are out there. They're going to be very, very helped here. Go ahead.
Awesome.
Well,
So
Nicole, we met at John Maxwell certification. We were both getting ours done for different reasons. For me, it was kind of what we're talking about today. I had a whole bunch of millennials. I'm not a millennial. And Larry and I didn't really know how to run them. And I was looking for training on how to lead them better. And it did change for us. So let's get into it. Like most of the owners in our space, that kind of blue collar service businesses, they're still either baby boomers or Generation Xers for the most part. And, they complain and complain and complain about their millennial technicians, especially, and that they don't understand them. And, Larry and I we had a guy on who's a plumbing instructor in high school. So we were saying how, you learned by getting a pipe wrench thrown at your head. And if you ducked enough times and didn't get hit, then you'd survive and then move on to fight another day. But that doesn't work with millennials. That's what we learned.
Yeah. I had to stop Eric from throwing those wrenches anymore.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So can you kind of give us some insight into the culture of millennials and their mindset so that all of guys like us out there can maybe better understand what we're dealing with?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you, Larry and Eric, for having me on the show. It's always great to talk about something that I love to do, and that's leading our students. I am a founder and CEO of the Cole Academy of Personal Growth, where we do professional development and we work with students, our millennials, and focus on underserved youth to help them develop their soft skills that they need to be successful in the world. So the leadership skills, communication skills. But not only that, when I was starting to work with them and do workshops, what I found is that we have a whole generation of people like myself and Generation X and boomers that don't know how to engage with these wonderful millennials and Gen Zers. So I kind of expounded my services to help leaders such as ourselves try to bridge that gap. So understanding that first we have to understand the culture. And it's a misconception. A lot of times when I talk about millennials, I'll throw out the question, so give me some characteristics of millennials. And of course, I'm talking to the boomers and the Xers, and the first thing we hear, oh, they're lazy, they're entitled, they're selfish. You know, we hear all of those negative characteristics, but then what we really found, there's a lot of research, is that we just really don't understand them. They're growing up in a different time. They're exposed to different things, so they're learning different. So it's not their fault, right? So we can't blame them because they don't learn how we learn, or they don't see the world as we see it. It's a whole different generation. So when you think of millennials, you know, these are people who are between the ages of, or have born between 1981 all the way to 96. So we have a wide range of millennials. So that's another thing in itself, that you can have college students, you can have maybe young adults age, you may have even millennials that have families, you know, so it's a larger spectrum. But the characteristics that we see, and the Pew Research Center does a lot of research on millennials and getting the characteristics that they're multitasking. They're digitally sound. They love technology. They prefer more of the interactive, collaborative work and learning. They have a short attention span. The attention span of millennial is 11 to 12 seconds. So think about that. To catch their attentions, 11 to 12
What's
seconds.
ours?
Ours is we're more about 20 seconds, and Gen Zers, it decreases to about 8 seconds. So it's even less. So
Larry, I didn't know you were in Gen Z.
Oh, did I make an assumption?
I think you did.
Did I make an assumption?
You're aging horribly, bro.
Well, you look good, Larry. You look good.
I just shaved my head, but I'm all right there, you know?
You look good. I won't tell your secret.
The found youth.
That's it. There you go. So, you know, they're driven more by instant gratification. They like more flexibility. They like more casual interaction, very well-rounded people. So we got to have that into consideration when we talk about workforce and putting and having them as employees, and just thinking about who are they. And that's the first thing that we as leaders have to consider. You know, before it's like, we want employees to just come in and just do the work and that's it. We don't really want to engage. We just do your work and we send you off, you know, yeah. But it's a change of time. So as leaders, we're going to have to make a shift in that.
So what, you know, that was always an issue that Larry and I had to deal with. And, you know, we'll talk maybe a little bit about how we dealt with it. But, you know, our world, we don't run a tech company where you can bring your dog and you can come and go as you please. And, you know, it's like, you got to be there at 7 and then we want you out the door by 7:30 and the work's done whenever it's done. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of monotonous a little bit. Like, I mean, the trades are great and they're very rewarding, but it doesn't have that kind of flexibility just by its nature. So what would yours
quite the opposite way? You don't have much, you know, they've got to be able to roll with what's happening. And is that part of the problem?
That was always a struggle for us.
Mm-hmm. So even with that, so you gotta think outside the box. So when we're thinking about how to lead them, knowing that they like engagement, they are always on the cell phone, so they have their smartphone. So, you know, thinking about ways that you can increase engagement. You can start use some technology like GroupMe or a text group with your employees. because they want to be involved. They want to have ownership in the work that they do. They want to feel like they are part of a solution or a larger part of a solution. These are the groups that they're looking for their purpose. They want to feel important. They want to do something important with their life. So these are the things that they're looking for when they're seeking jobs. So if you have an industry that's really not that flexible, it's really going to take some time to think outside of the box, and using many of the resources that are out there. It could be something simple, a text group, a Facebook group, something to get them engaged, something that they're always on. Back with our groups, we had newsletters, but they're not reading newsletters, so just sending a quick text or what's an update of what's going on with the company, a weekly chat group. So giving them the ability to have their voice, what are they seeing? What some of the challenges they're going in. So they want that personal touch, even though we know it's, as you said, in your industry, it's not that flexible, but if you really can think about carving out some time, and it doesn't take that long, it could be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, but the fact that you make the effort. And that's what they want to see. They want to see that they have employers that are making the effort to get to know who they are.
Yeah, we did that after I got back from Maxwell training. Larry and I never really had a morning meeting. We used to text them their job tickets and just say, go, and it didn't work. So what we did is we started doing a morning meeting where we were talking about our mission and talking about our vision and basically spending time with them, having little birthday parties, all these little things, right? Yeah. And we were amazed at the turnaround and how fast it was. Like all of a sudden, like for our world, what do we want? We want them to do more add-on sales when they're in the house, that we want them to not get callbacks. We want them to, get 5-star reviews on Yelp, like all these things. Those are the things that make or break a service company. And just by having the morning meeting and the little birthday parties and all that stuff just went through the roof. Like, because it's engagement, and we showed them that we cared. We always cared. We just didn't know probably the right way to show it.
Just show them the proper way.
Exactly. And it's all about the connection. They're looking to connect with their employers. They're looking to know that their employees see them as people. And they, as you and I are both John Maxwell certified, and they said, if you don't know how much, they don't care how much you know until you know how much you care, right? Yeah. So even the smallest thing, celebrating a birthday, celebrating anniversaries, finding common ground, giving opportunity to find some common ground with people who, have children and they're connecting, people who are from the same regions and they're connecting. So it's little small things that make a difference, and you'll see the dramatic change in behavior, because now they feel they have a high level of emotional intelligence. So it's all about emotion. It's all about the touchy-feely, which is totally different from our generation. So you're like, just come in, do your work, and get out, and get it done and do it right. So it's that shift and that's change. And it's okay. And it's something that we have to do, because they say that in 2 years, millennials will make up half our workforce. And by 2030, I think now they're going to be 75% of the workforce. So we can choose to not embrace this whole millennial mode of connection, and then we're going to feel the effects. You're going to have that high turnaround. You're going to have, employment dissatisfaction. So you're going to have all of those repercussions of it. But it will just be a small change in the beginning that you'll be able to see lasting effects.
Yeah. Think about, I'm going to make a birthday point. The problem Larry and I had was they wanted birthday week. Not birthday.
I'm surprised they don't want birthday months.
I heard that yesterday on another podcast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness they didn't hear of that.
We also had a guy that we hired that he came to us the night before and said, I need tomorrow off because it's my half birthday. I don't know if that's going to work, buddy. Anyway, interesting. How do you go about beyond lead, because we have to lead, but we also have to manage them. Yeah. How do they like to be managed? Because that was, we found that they generally, as a group, and obviously there's individuals, but they don't take criticism well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Larry and I, what we did was we started doing these like monthly, like little quick reviews so that they got a little bit of feedback, but frequently.
Often, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you review somebody every 30 days, they don't really have enough time to get off the rails so that the review is going to be bad, right? That's how we dealt with it. What else are you seeing, or what other ways could people effectively manage?
And that's a great question. And it goes back to the connection, because when we think about workplace improvement, and you know, as my professional career, I remember getting reviews and IDPs, and it was more so of my employer giving information to me about my job performance, about what's happening. And there was no real dialogue for me to now give communication back. So even that little aspect of having them to have the ability to have the platform to voice in that interaction, not only are you giving feedback, but to have them give feedback to you to say, you know, whatever it is that they want to say, how they feel their job performance is, what do they need to increase their job performance, what are some of the challenges that they're going through. So now you're tuning in and listening to them, and then you'll find that you'll be able to kind of manage them, because now, you know, they know, like, and trust you, they know you care. So it's not just this, and this, do this, or you're not doing this, or you're doing this, or this could be better. So now you have that dialogue. So I think that is a key in that engagement piece.
That always amazed me, because we got more feedback from the millennials coming back at us than I ever expected.
Yeah.
It was cool. It made sense. But the other guys like, yeah. And it was just boom, boom, boom. And the millennials, they wanted to talk and communicate. Yep. And I was
that took me a
Threw
while.
me off.
Not going to lie.
Yeah. And it is. It's a cultural thing that, you know, change is not easy. You know, with change comes resistance. Change is never easy. So it's just, you know, thinking about just little small things like that. Even if it's just, you know, if you don't want to tackle it in that one setting where you're giving their evaluation, maybe sending out a survey beforehand that they can then use that as their platform. So it's that in that meeting, it's not that much of, you know, listening back and forth, but again, you're giving them the opportunity. And that's the thing, giving them the platform, giving them the opportunity to engage and have that feedback.
Yeah. I think also maybe, I think what Larry and I learned, Larry and I both have strong personalities, and, you know, we were quite a bit older than a lot of our team. Like, I think even though we were saying, look, you can tell us what you want, you can tell, but there's that, we found a lot of our team didn't feel comfortable just coming up to us and saying, we want this, we want that. I think we could do this better. Like, is that why you're saying surveys? Like, because they kind of hide behind their phone a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a good thing. When you do the survey, it gives them that opportunity. And until you build that type of trust with them where they do feel comfortable, then using the surveys or using Poll Everywhere. There's so many softwares and digital technology that you can use to kind of gain that feedback, so they can still feel that they're a part if they're not comfortable. But they won't be comfortable until they kind of, you know that know, like, and trust you, until you build that camaraderie that they respect you, you respect them. So all of that takes time, you know, and unfortunately you're running against the time because you have deadlines and you have the work to get done, but then you still have to find that time to carve out. So it's thinking of creative ways outside the box to, one, not only get what you want, but also to have them get what they want. So surveys are a great thing as well.
So beyond just flexibility and freedom, what do they really look for in a job? What is their end goal collectively?
Yeah, I think millennials want, like I said earlier, they want to feel a part. You know, they're in life to serve a purpose. So they want to know the work that they're doing has some type of larger meaning, in life.
Being part of a cause,
being part of a cause and being embraced in some type of community. So you see a lot of companies now embracing some type of global initiative or environmental initiatives or some type of advocacy programs. And these are things that you can have them do. So you're taking out, you want to, have them come up with some type of program that they can be a part of with the company, that aligns with the company's mission, aligns with the company's values. So they feel that they're just not just working just to work and get a paycheck, that they feel that they are a part of this global, more holistic type of life, that their life has purpose and meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did that. It took us a while to figure that out. But, as water damage restoration guys, what are we doing? We're helping people every day that are in need. So we started really pushing that mentality, opposed to like, oh, it's job 1 and job 2 and job 3. It's Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Smith and Mr., whoever. And then
they need help.
They need help. And then and just for the record, I mean, we're kind of talking about some of the negatives. I mean, Larry and our company was entirely made of millennials other than the two of us. And once we got the formula down, you could not have picked a better crew of people. I mean, you just they were so engaged and they so bought into what we were doing.
Awesome.
I mean, we didn't always agree with some of their worldviews, but that's okay.
And we did not get it down completely. That's kind of why we're asking you a lot of questions too. Because
we got it down to the point where we didn't have massive turnover and massive problems, and
But there's
down is relative. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, Eric was very good at connecting with most of these technicians.
Yeah,
I was horrible.
Well, no, okay, but this is a good thing. And Nicole, Larry never wanted to give them the time. He was always too busy, which Larry was.
That was
super
probably
busy.
The situation, from what you're saying.
I recognized that if I didn't give them the time, I was going to spend that time anyway with problems.
Exactly.
So I might as well give them the time on the front end.
Exactly.
And that was when it changed for me, because I used to be a lot like Larry. I'd be like, we got all this work. We've got 12 hours to work today, and I've got 20 hours worth of work. So I'm already 8 in the hole. How am I going to go out in the warehouse and spend time with the guys?
Yeah.
But what I realized was, once I did that, I didn't have 20 hours anymore on a 12-hour day. I the problems started going away.
Right. And that's the thing, when we think of doing something outside of our comfort zone, we think of it as this massive undertaking. So it's like, I don't really have time for that. But again, when you think about it on a smaller scale, they said the best way to eat an elephant, one chunk at a time. So chop it down, right? Don't think it's a massive undertaking. Just go to warehouse and chop it up for 5 minutes, right. And that makes a world of difference. The fact that they said you took the time out of your schedule, because they know you're busy, to come down here to see about me, to value me, to pour into me, to inspire me, whatever that is, that connection goes a long way. And it's building. It's like that. It's like a building of a trust bank. So every time you do it, you're putting that trust, they're putting some coins in that bank, and then you'll see that work performance increase, because now they're beginning to know, like, and trust you as employers.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to take exactly what you said and put to what Larry had said earlier when he said, I was horrible at it. Wasn't that you were horrible at it? You didn't have the time to build social capital so that when you had a bad moment, they'd give you a hall pass. I had bad moments too, but I had spent enough time with them that they'd be like, Eric's having a moment. I'm just going to let him be. I know he cares about me because he comes, hangs out with me every day. That's the only difference, I think, and most owners don't want to do that, to be honest. They don't want to spend that time.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's not time. You save time by engaging with them.
Totally on the front end, what you're saying is a big deal.
So our next wave of employees, Nicole, for guys like Larry and I, is Generation Z.
Yeah.
And I have 2 Generation Z daughters. So I think Larry has, Sydney, a millennial? You have
She's
one.
1996.
She's on the cuff, so she's more of a millennial.
She relates to the millennials.
She's
like
very
crazy.
millennial-y.
Yeah, she's right there on the cusp. Yeah.
So, we have some kids, so I think we might have a little bit more insight than we did when the millennials started working for us. But how do they differ than millennials?
Well, research really shows that the differences are not that much, especially in the workforce because of they're younger. But what we know that, the Gen Zers now, they're entirely in a digital age. They don't know anything but technology. So, so now you have increased stimulation, you have increased use of technology, their attention span is shorter. Like I said, from millennials to a Gen Z, it drops down now to 8 seconds. So they're constantly bombarded with sensory information. So they're multitasking, they're digital. So they like to, their Google is their friend. They're information driven. So you can't just tell them anything. They're just going to go and look it up and find it for themselves. So they're very information driven. So they're, when it comes to the workforce, of course, because of this in this early stages, there's not much research to show that much difference between the two. But those are some of the things that we know.
Some of the things that I hear from my kids, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like they might be a little more practical than millennials. And I think a lot of it is because when 2008 and the big recession came, I think a lot of those kids saw their parents really get eaten alive. Mm-hmm. And they seem to be a little less head in the clouds and a little more, I want stability and I need to go find a better job. Like that's what I'm hearing from my kids and their friends. Yeah, they're very much more like, no, I'm not worried about traveling to Italy. I need to make sure I can buy a home. You weren't hearing that from the generation before, I don't think, quite as much.
You'll see those differences again because they're growing up in a different time. With our millennials, they kind of missed a lot of the tragedy that we have experienced in the U.S. and in the world. So they do have their sense of heads in the clouds a little bit. And that's where we get that sense of they are that entitled generation because they don't have to work hard for anything. Things are just handed to them. They feel that things are just supposed to be given to them. So, there's a difference between the younger generation who have experienced some of those tragic things that have happened over the years. And they see, like you said, they've seen it. So it's a little bit different in mindset. But again, once they grow up and moving into the workforce, it might be something different.
So is there any research yet on how to properly lead and manage Gen Z versus millennials? Is there any different or same thing basically?
It's the same thing. Most of the research shows is the incorporation of technology, ensuring workplaces use technology, and even in schools, how to engage with them using technology in the digital space. So that's the majority of the research that is out there because that's what they know and how to engage and communicate with them.
So you're saying the more technology that you can implement, the better.
The better for them.
Like including training them with technology.
Training with technology, engagement with technology, because,
Okay, but that brings up a question that, what we're talking about, like Larry and I were engaging our millennials face-to-face in morning meetings, or me going out in the warehouse and helping them unload trucks and all these things. Do you think that would even be better served sending them, like FaceTiming them or something? Well,
for millennials, they want that touchy-feely.
Okay.
They want that emotionalism. They want that hands-on
in person. And we're not talking COVID. I'm just talking in general.
Yeah, just in general. They
fives
want that
and hugs.
High fives, hugs, and because they're part of them. They have not grown totally into the digital age. So you have that. They're still kind of have some of the aspects of our Gen Xers, and then they have some aspects of this digital age. So they're kind of in that middle phase. So they want both. So it's easier where you can have a hybrid of that high five and those face to face. But then sometimes when it's convenient for you guys, let's send a group message. Let's, get them so you want to quickly engage with them. Let's send a group text. So they know that's that constant engagement. And that's what makes the difference.
Yeah. We used, in the last few years, we use Slack.
Slack was good.
Slack,
Totally
yeah,
get
Slack is
everybody's
good, yeah.
slacking back and forth, and
Good, yeah.
you know that
That's
gives,
a good one.
because it's hard in our world because we send the guys out. Like it's not like we're all working in the same building. You know, we might all be there in the morning, and every company that's probably listening to this, they do the same thing, and then everybody leaves out in the field all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, everybody's alone. And what we found was Slack kind of helped because somebody would say, oh, I'm having a problem with this thing. And then guys would start chiming in, like, do this or do that. And it created some community that way.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it was so hard to keep track of.
Yeah,
the
but
two
the
of
problem
us were
was,
like,
it's
it's beeping, it's going off, the phone won't stop.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My job was, Larry was out marketing. My job was to, basically sit in the office and be the air traffic control and coordinate everybody.
What's going on.
And my phone on Slack would just ping all day. And I'm like, how am I supposed to think?
Yeah.
So, there's
welcome to the millennial world.
Yeah.
Boomer. Boomer, man.
I'm not a boomer.
And the funny thing is, that doesn't bother them. I know I have a niece who's a Gen Z, and it drives me crazy because every 2 seconds, I'm like, put the phone away, so it doesn't, they're like immune to it. It's like music to their ears. It's crazy, but I understand it. But it drives me crazy.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of that, I want to move into another thing that, we had to spend a lot of time training our younger team on soft skills because we found that they lacked those in a big way. And, for most field service technicians, the disconnect is they're 22 or 25, but the client's 65.
Yeah.
So we learned that the majority of our problems did not happen because they were not technically well trained. It was issues with communication, issues with in-home behavior, issues with manners, issues with anything.
Issues with them dealing with us, it was that generation dealing with the other generation,
and also extremely conflict averse, generally speaking. So what should companies be doing to increase emotional intelligence? Because we also saw some lack of empathy because they always live digitally, so when somebody was in need, they couldn't relate. It's like, oh, I see that on TV all the time. It's like, yeah, but that person needs a hug.
Yeah.
So where should we all be going with figuring out how to train that?
That is a great question. And, we're seeing a lot. That's why I kind of went in the direction with my company the way that I did with that professional development. And knowing that social emotional learning is such a missing piece. Even in school, we're taught the technical skills. We go to college, we're taught but nobody's teaching about this personal growth and development. It's called so many things: personal growth development, social emotional learning, emotional intelligence, soft skills. So it's all the same thing. Yeah. But nobody teaches that. I mean, we're seeing more colleges kind of embrace that now. And teaching more leadership, organizational leadership, and things of that nature. But in the younger years, you don't get that. And that's where we need that. So we need to start developing young. So I think even in the engagement piece with companies, it can be just incorporating something. It doesn't have to be major training. It could be little things. Where you incorporate some type of activity so they can learn. Because a lot of this is all awareness and more self-reflection. So having, like I've written the journal, is all about social emotional learning. And I do what I do with our millennials. I have a cohort of millennials that I take through the journal. And each day, and we're going through, a journey of, I call it a journey of self-discovery. So there's 7 journeys that they go through. The first is self-reflection. So here they are, they're asking themselves themselves, you know, what are some of the experiences they have had in the past that are affecting them in the present. So different question that's going to heighten their level of thinking, heighten their thinking capacity. So it could be something small as engaging as sending them a thought question on a once a week, or, you know, on some type of frequency where they're, you know, and that could be their training, where they're giving them the ability to think. How would you interact with when doing this situation? Now they have to think about things. So it's giving them the ability, that high level of thinking and the opportunity. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that main training or big training, if you don't have the time. But again, it could be something small, on a smaller scale, of sending some social emotional questions that they answer, and they may have to either send it back somehow, and somehow you have some type of discussion in your meeting, you know. So something like that will definitely help in that area.
That, I mean, I think that's one of the most underutilized areas of training in our world.
Yeah.
They always want to train technical.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go train that guy how to cut drywall. It's like, no, you got to train that guy how to deal with Mrs. Jones before you cut the drywall.
Yeah.
You know, so that she's going to be happy. You know?
Yeah.
Larry, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you dealt with this a lot too.
Well, that's kind of like what you do with your lessons. And you give them little bits at a time, which is what you mentioned, which is great. So you're not flooding them with a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the training that we did was role playing. So they learned that way as well. And it's fun and it's interactive. Like you're saying, the interactive was great. So the role playing is always uncomfortable to start with, but if you do it consistently, it's no big deal. And it helps when you're out in the field.
The other thing we used to do is we would assign team members to have to give like whiteboard lessons in front of all the other people, so that they got used to public speaking, you know, in the shop. So you know, they weren't judged so harshly, and it would get them used to, you know, commanding the room, you know.
And that's something I teach teachers to do when they're in their classroom, to do more role playing, to do more engagement, to give the students more leadership opportunities. So, you know, you give them a project that they have to lead, and they have to now work in a group setting. They have to work collaboratively. So a lot of those things, you know, can be transferable to your industry in doing that with role playing, or, you know, some type of simulation activity to help them kind of have that heightened sense of awareness and thought process.
So speaking of that, did they prefer to work in groups more than older generations? Because we were always wanting to send guys out solo because you can cover more ground.
Yeah.
And they used to fight us on that tooth and nail.
Yeah, millennials, like they're all about togetherness. They're all about community. They're all about working together. They're all about
doubling the payroll.
No, but what we tried to do the best we could is we'd send multiple guys to a job and then be like, you guys got to finish this really fast because there's so many of you. Mm-hmm. And then they would like be this rolling caravan of guys just knocking out jobs. I say guys because most of ours were male, but Larry and I were always like fine with going out on our own all day and just doing our thing, kind of preferred it, you know. And they fought us tooth and nail. They would get
so upset. They'd be so sad. I'm going to be by myself today. Yeah. You know, you got this, and tell them about the client and all this.
No, that's you're going against their culture and what they know and what they feel. So then again, it's that when they don't feel that sense of community, when they don't feel that engagement, then it's reflected in their work performance. But when they have that sense of community, or even, you know, thinking about just making teams or something like that, doing something fun, making it engaging, but having that sense of togetherness, creating contests or some type of competitiveness within the different teams, amongst the group, you know, giving reward incentive, what team goes first or what team finishes first, having contests. So all of those things are little things that will help them with that engagement.
Yeah. Boy, that's a lot of extra work, Nicole.
I know. I know.
I know.
I'm
I can
just
hear.
the
I can hear every person on the
I
other end
know.
going, "Man, who's got time for that?" But
you know, it's a lot of work on the front end.
yeah,
You know, so it's the idea that if you take the time and think about how you can create change and create this environment that is conducive for a millennial to feel the warm and fuzzy feeling that they need to feel for great work performance on the front end, then you don't have to continue to do it over and over, because you set the systems in place that you can now just let it run automatically. And so now you'll see the increased work performance and the low turnover. So it's either you want to address it on the front end or deal with the consequences on the back end.
right.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because you have a great culture in the meantime. Other things happen conjointly at the same time, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what are some of the companies that are doing it right? Like, who do you think does it well?
You'll see companies like Google, Apple, all the big corporation companies. They're moving to more flexible schedules. They're getting rid of, the hard desk, the cubicles. They'll have the cushy couches and the lounges. Flex time with lunchtime. Everybody's together. They have a sense of community. So you see a lot of the larger corporation kind of embracing this millennial culture and kind of changing things up. You'll see things in their marketing. Employees are able to get feedback. So you'll see that a lot in the larger corporations.
Yeah, and I think that's a super important point. I mean, obviously, our world is different.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons, Larry, and I wanted to have you on is because, the average, we were just talking to a plumbing instructor. The average age of a master plumber is 58. The average age of a master electrician is 52. So there are not a lot of people behind them. There's this whole gap. So I think all the owners have to get their head around that we all need to make the changes to make a workplace that people want to come to.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's frustrating to us, is that young people are passing on careers that pay an awful lot of money. You don't have to incur any college debt to start. And, most places it's an apprentice program. So you're learning while you're getting paid.
Being paid at the same time.
You get young people making six-figure incomes doing a lot of this type of work, and they don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And some of it's an internal thing for all of guys like Larry and I, that the age of the Neanderthal owner throwing the wrench, that needs to go away, that can't work anymore. But also, I think what you were saying is that they need to look in the mirror and say, I need to make change to learn how these guys operate. Because
you have to be able to attract them, right?
Exactly.
They're going to do their research. They're going to check you out. They're going to this is the generation that's just not going to come in for an interview, get the job and go. They're going to check. They're going to Yelp you. They're going to do their due diligence. They're going to find all the information on your company, see how all the good, the bad, the ugly, and look at your values, look at your mission, look at the things that you have done. So they're going to check you out. So it's the idea that, embracing this change and kind of incorporate so they can see that, so if they're looking for opportunities, it's not that they don't want anything to do with it, that they just don't see that they fit in your company or in that industry. So now you just kind of have to change the face of it a little bit to attract them to say, oh, now this is viable options for me, and so much of the way our educational system, it doesn't lead towards that blue collar industry. They tell kids, get the education, go to college, do this, and have that professional life. But things are even changing in that aspect, because we know that these working with millennials, a lot of them want to be entrepreneurs. A lot of them want to be business owners. A lot of them, are now thinking outside of the box of ways that they can earn money. So now is the time to embrace this whole change, so we can now gather these this generation and introduce them to this whole industry that you all have, where they can, that meets their needs, that will definitely do all the things that we talked about, be flexible. They can have the money, they can have a sense of purpose, they can help people. So, but they just need to see that.
Yeah. Well, don't get me going on the whole school thing.
I know. Whole other conversation.
We've had that conversation with people. Yeah. We've had a whole podcast about that. And, you're talking about they want to be entrepreneurial. I mean, one of the fastest routes to becoming an entrepreneur would probably be coming into the trades, especially when you have, these older guys like Larry and I.
Some of those old guys moving out.
Yeah, they're moving out. I mean, you can only be, you can only be in the field so long.
Yeah.
So if you're 58 years old and you're still in the field, you're thinking you're about done. You're sore by then. So, that's the whole thing, is that there's so much opportunity, and yet we feel like the school systems just keep pushing everybody to college.
Yeah.
That's happened to, I can't speak for Larry, but that happened to me. I wanted to go to vocational school, and, they told me, well, that's where the burnouts go. Don't go there, and I was a kid who didn't like to sit in class. I liked to do things with my hands, but I didn't want to be thought of as the loser kid either, So I went to college. But to be honest, it was kind of wasted on me, other than I partied a lot.
Yeah.
So I worked on my soft skills while I was, and Larry super worked on his soft skills.
Your relationship skills.
Yeah, I was going to say I learned soft skills around a keg.
Frat basement.
Yeah. But
that's so true, and something that needs to change. And I think that it is changing, because they're now seeing the disconnect, because when they make that transition from high school, even to college, even to that professional workforce, the employers are seeing that they don't have the skill sets that they need. So it's I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, but in fact, you still have people who do that path and still are unsatisfied. So they're still searching and still looking for a sense of purpose.
Yeah. And now you're searching with $100,000 of debt hanging
exactly.
over your head.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
So Nicole, if we hired you to come in and we said, okay, we've got 20 millennials working for us. Let's say it's Larry and Eric's plumbing company. We said, okay, our culture's okay. It's not awesome, but it could be way better. And, I know you've give us like the short list, like the 3 or 4 things that you would tell us to do first to just fix. I just want to more of a recap than anything.
Yeah. I would say if I had to choose the top 3, one is make sure improving internal communication. Making sure that engagement is up, making sure that you're connecting with them, making sure that they have a platform to let their voice be heard, and you're giving them that opportunity via digital, however that is, but definitely improving that internal communication.
Hold on. Do you think digital's the best way?
Combination of both with millennials.
Okay.
So digital, and then also that face-to-face, warm and fuzzy kind of feeling. So they need to feel that touch, but then they also can do the interaction on a digital space as well.
Yep. Okay.
2, I think having that opportunity to learn and grow. And incorporate, like we talked about, the social learning, incorporating some of the social learning training, leadership training, helping them with their self-awareness, maybe sending questions out so they can have that opportunity to grow, not only professionally, but personally as well. So then again, they're getting that sense of ownership. They're getting that sense that you truly care about them and value what they value. So I would say doing that, just making sure there's opportunities to learn and grow. And then also, lastly, I would say making sure that giving them a self that they know that they're making a difference. If there is some way to integrate some type of global initiative or some type of community program or some type of advocacy program, to show them that what they're doing is purposeful on a larger scale. So they want to be involved in something that's bigger than them.
Right.
So it could be, like you said, you're doing, water restoration. So how does that impact the environment? And how does that, what can we do to help with the water crisis, somewhere, and things of that nature. So having something that they can truly take ownership on, and giving them the reins to do it. You come up with it. We want you to start this program and lead this program. So giving them that authority. So giving them that a chance to make a difference on a bigger scale. So those are the three main things I would.
That's awesome.
Wrap up.
No, thank you.
Very helpful. Totally.
Right. I'm gonna wrap up, Nicole, with the three questions I like to ask the guests. So I didn't put this in your thing because I like to surprise everybody. So Larry and I are big readers, and we believe that if you want to be successful, you need to read. So what book or books are you reading right now?
I am reading The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth.
Maxwell book.
Maxwell book. And then I'm also actually I have a group of millennials that I'm working with. Actually, they're all the way in Kenya, and I'm going through my journal. So I'm reading my own journal and doing the activities myself. So
that's good.
Cool.
Always good to do that. Yeah.
And I know the name, but just for the audience, the name of your journal is?
The journal is Adulting in My Purpose. I have my shirt on.
Available on Amazon.
Available on Amazon. Yes. Adulting in My Purpose, available on Amazon.
All right. Favorite
That's a journal. I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead. I'll ask afterwards. Continue.
Right. Favorite podcasts?
Wow. I have listened to one. I'm a spiritual person, so I have my spiritual podcast. I listen to Rick Warren every morning. He has a Daily Hope, so that just helps me with spiritual. I listen to the Greatest School of Life podcast.
Lewis Howes.
Yep. So those are two that I listen to on a daily basis. Yeah.
Last question. So, Dr. Maxwell says this, that, if you want to find out if someone's successful or not, he wants to see what their daily agenda looks like. So what are some of the habits? What are some of your success habits that you do every day, or just your daily routines that help you stay on track?
So one thing is doing my, have some type of spiritual development for me. So I wake up early, set my alarm at 4:30. So I struggle to get set up at 4:30
a.m.
a.m. Yep.
You just lost me entirely.
So I wake up early enough so I can get it in.
Right,
so I wake up early.
That's your superpower.
That's a superpower. I do my devotion. I do my prayer and meditation. And then I do some type of personal growth and development for myself. And then I also have affirmations that I speak when I get ready. I look in the mirror and I have a list of affirmations I recite to myself. And those are some of the things that I do daily. I have my whiteboard you can't see. So another thing that I do, I have everything that I need to do for the day. So I'm very intentional about what I'm doing. I'm very strategic. So I have that all on the whiteboard. So those are just some of the things that I do to keep me on track.
And then exercise, I'm assuming.
And then, when I can get it in.
I know.
When I can get it in.
Isn't it funny that it's always the thing that everybody says, like, if I can get it in, and we say the same thing. It's like, why isn't that the first thing?
I know.
For all of us.
I know. It's so funny because when I was in corporate, I was advocate in exercise. I had my whole routine. I got off work. I had my gym bag. I knew where I was going, but entering this whole entrepreneurial life, things just kind of
seizure.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like, it's so much. So I have yet, even though I'm 4.5 years in, I have yet to get that constant health and exercise routine back in, but I do get it in. I like to take walks. I like to go hiking. Be by bodies of water. So just kind of take time and just woosah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. That was enlightening.
Hang on, I got to dive in. I still have one more question. I apologize. The
No,
adulting my purpose, who
Yes.
should be looking for that, and what is it going to do for them?
Great
Exactly, the
question.
journal, yeah.
So when I wrote that, came out of my own personal growth journey. So quick story is that when I was younger, I struggled with reading comprehension. Back then, they didn't have all the labels and stuff they have now, but so struggled with dyslexia now that they have terminology. But before then, I was just remedial. So they just stuck me in remedial classes. And they told me, I was average and all this stuff. So all of that, I struggled with that growing up. And dealt with all the things that comes with the labels, the bullying and the low self-esteem, all of that stuff. And I realized that when I entered in this level of desiring to know my purpose, to walk in my purpose, there were things that I needed to overcome in order to truly manifest the greatness that was inside of me. So I went on this personal growth journey, and it actually started when I met Eric at John Maxwell. When I went to that conference, it was more to find out about me and who I was, and get that social emotional learning that I was lacking. So I had the technical skills. I was a scientist. That's my background. I have degrees in science. So I was a research scientist for 20 something years doing research. So I had all the technical skills, but there was social and emotional learning that I didn't have. So I went on my own personal growth journey, and it took about maybe 2.5 years. And then I documented everything, all of the things, the questions that I asked, all the activities that I did to kind of help me build myself up. And I put it all down in this journal. And then I said to myself that I want to impact the millennials, because if I had this when I was their age, my life would have went a little differently. So the target of the journal are millennials, and it will help them develop a sense of who they are and helping with that emotional learning. So they get clarity on their vision. They have will have questions that will enlighten them on some of their fears, their limiting beliefs, their self-doubts, help them identify them, not only identify them, but find ways to overcome them. So there's a chapter in there of self-planning that we go in, and how do we do goal setting, and not only goal setting, how do we goal achieve, and what does that look like? So that they're going, and once they finish, they get a sense of more confidence in who they are. They have a more clarity of kind of what they want to do and the direction they want to go in. They're a little bit more motivated. They're a little more apt to overcome their fears and overcome their self-doubt to move forward in life.
Should have that in every high school and college in the country.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. So I'm starting small. I just released it in February, so it just came out. So I'm in the beginning stages. Starting with some small groups of millennials, kind of testing it out. When I first was in the process of finishing it, I had a group to go through it, to do kind of a pilot through it, and they loved it. The transformation was great. So now I'm just continuing to build that. And hopefully, we'll see this all over the country.
All right. Well, for all the owners out there that are listening with all kinds of millennial technicians, go get that book. Start doing, you can start doing a class right in your morning meeting.
Do your small groups. We talked about having the questions are there for you. So take a question a day or a question a week.
Yeah. No, that's
easy
awesome.
to do.
All right, Nicole. So how can everybody find you? Pitch whatever offerings you have.
Yeah.
Now's your time to let everybody know how to get a hold of you.
Awesome. So I am on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Dr. Nicole Rankine. So at DrNicoleRankine. That's my handle. I'm also on LinkedIn as Dr. Nicole Rankine. So that's an easy way to get to me. My website is www.drnicolerankine.com. You see, making it simple.
It's real easy so far.
Keeping it simple. Get the journal. That's the one thing that I want to encourage everybody. You have millennials, even if you are a millennial or you have one, if you have a workforce of millennials, this is something that will definitely benefit them in helping with the social emotional learning, and help you not have to go out and find things. So you have everything that you need. It takes them on the different journeys, and it's something that will definitely be helpful.
Cool.
And I am here for anything that people need for training, questions. You can reach out to me.
Okay, perfect. And we'll put the link for the journal in the notes for the show.
Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you for giving us your time. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming.
It was
It was very
fun.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I think it's going to help a lot of people.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Thank you.